Hey, DJ, we have a very special episode. We're doing our tribute to the late Paul Reubens. What movie are we talking about today?
We're talking about Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
And also in tribute, we have a secret word of the day. What's our secret word, DJ?
Amazing!
So remember, every time we say that word, you gotta scream real loud. Let's try it. Hey, DJ, what did you think of Oppenheimer?
It was amazing!
We're a couple of guys who like to watch movies, cinema nerds who made it our duty to make a show where we break down, discuss, and review. We're the men who watch movies.
All right. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Well, first, before we get into the movie, let's talk the legend himself, Paul Reubens, and the character of Pee-wee, like how it came about. From what do you know about the creation of Pee-wee Herman?
Well, from what I know, is that the inspiration was from the Ernest movies.
What? No, I don't think that's true. That's not true.
Well, I mean, there's a little, comedic stuff in there. I mean, there's a little comedic stuff. There's a little.
Although there are some similars between the characters, which I want to talk about later. But actually, the character of Pee-wee Herman was created as a character from for the Groundlings, which is like it's like a comedy group. So it was a character created for that, and it just kind of took a life on its own. So this is from Mental Floss. Some fun facts about Pee-wee Herman. Apparently, Pee-wee Herman came from an extended improv at the Groundlings. Ruben told Mental Floss, for the character's origin, we were just given an assignment to come up with a character that one might encounter in a comedy club, and it came up with Pee-wee Herman. And his first stage appearance as Pee-wee Herman was in 1977. That's amazing. It's such an iconic character too. It's crazy to think someone could just pull that from their mind, like when they think just think he was given the task of coming up with somebody that he would meet in a comedy club, and he came up with this like everlasting character that just kind of transcends time and culture and whatnot. What an amazing character to come up with. Apparently, the name Pee-wee came from a harmonica that he had. What do you think about that?
It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, he apparently said he owned a harmonica that said Pee-wee on it, and then that just kind of stuck in his mind, and he used that for the name. And it's just funny how those little weird things happen, and they just become so iconic, And then it's the character was like one of those. There was like an era in comedy history where like people came up with characters that they tried kind of passing off as their own persona for the sake of comedy, and then Pee-wee is one of them. Like he would always go on stage as Pee-wee Herman. He wouldn't break character. That was his persona. He would even be like credited in different projects as Pee-wee Herman. What do you think? I think that's kind of interesting. Like there's been other, of course, comedy acts that have done this throughout the years. I mean, you have the great Andy Kaufman. He would do the Foreign Man, and then he would play it as he was that character and whatnot. I think it's so interesting. What do you think about that?
Truly, truly awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Apparently, the Pee-wee suit was a loaner. The director and co-founder of the Groundlings, a man named Gary Austin, loaned him the suit, which Reubens said he never gave back. And then he ended up just using it for the character. And then he's like, if it's not broke, why would I fix it? So he just kept using that same suit, and it became iconic. I think that's hilarious. And then he was even on the dating game. Did you see the clips online?
Oh yeah,
you can look it up on YouTube and whatnot. But he actually went kind of as like a test run to test out the character. He went on the dating game as Pee-wee Herman on a couple of occasions, and then even won like a date or two on the dating game as Pee-wee Herman. That's pretty funny. I don't know what was going on in their minds, the contestants, but what a wild character to go on a date with. Then eventually, of course, the character got a special on HBO which was basically like an early iteration of Pee-wee's Playhouse, but it was more like tuned for adults, right? It was like more of like adult humor. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have seen it, and of course I showed my mom a little bit of the clip, and she didn't. I mean, she liked it, but she said like, it's a little raunchy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the character wasn't meant for kids initially, but it kind of evolved into that later on as the character gained popularity with kids. But after a few years after that HBO special is when they decided to make a movie about the Pee Wee Herman character, and of course, infamously, Paul Reubens really argued to get Tim Burton the directing role after seeing Frankenweenie, and he just thought he had the right vibe to bring Pee Wee Herman to the big screen. And man, what a big payoff! It started an amazing career for Tim Burton. It's like one of those things. It's just like such a legendary character just spawns more legendary things and whatnot. But what a great choice in director. Would you agree for this movie?
Oh yeah, very, very, very good choice. And of course, I looked on the internet. Tim Burton made an uncredited cameo.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. But I never realized that. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, I mean, like, so it's so iconic Tim Burton, this movie. Like, he has a lot of his signature like creepy factor, which I think plays well off of the silliness of Pee-wee and the whole premise of the movie and a man trying to find his bike.
It is awesome, and it is a terrific film.
I love there's so many fun moments in this movie. I mean, of course, the movie starts off with a dream sequence. There's a lot of dream sequences in this, and they get weirder and weirder as the movie goes on. But the first dream sequence is Pee-wee winning the Tour de France. Of course, he's obsessed with his bike, and he loves bikes and whatnot. But I think it's funny. And then he of course he just blows everyone out of the water, and he wins. Everyone's kind of like carrying him on his shoulders. There's confetti everywhere and whatnot. And then I like how the real world intrudes on his dream. You hear the alarm go off, and then everyone scatters and whatnot. But he wakes up. He wakes up in his crazy house. I love his. I love the house in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. There's so much crazy crap everywhere, like collectible old vintage toys and whatnot, and it's just crazy. Would you love to live in a house like that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be very, very interesting, but the house almost looks like Ernest's house a little bit. Very, very much. Just a little different.
Watching Ernest, I do get a lot of Pee-wee vibes. I don't know if they borrowed some of that kind of aesthetic from it, but they both have like a lot of like Rube Goldberg machines and whatnot, crazy contraptions. I don't know what that's about, but it's fun. I don't. I'm not trying to say someone stole something from someone else, but definitely they got some similar vibes going. I don't know, but I like it. I like it either way. I like both of those characters. But yeah, Pee-wee has like, these crazy contraptions. I love the breakfast machine that he has. I always wanted something like that. Where it's like the dinosaur squeezing the orange juice, and then isn't there like a pterodactyl or something that drops like the toast in the thing? And
yeah, and there's like some other stuff, but. Of course, speaking of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, there is a Family Guy clip, and there's like, in the nostalgia of Pee-wee Big Adventure, Peter Griffin, of course, he has his own breakfast machine, and he does the same thing, but it eventually does the opposite of what Pee-wee Herman does. Of course, he lights it, and of course, the gun goes off and just shoots him in the arm.
Oh my gosh.
Just random stuff.
Ow! Ow! What was the point of all that?
Yeah. Seth MacFarlane likes doing pop culture references with a twist. Anyway, not to get too off topic here. Yeah, like you said, he had a lot of crazy shit in his house. I like that weird, fire pole that he slides down. Reminds me of the bat pole from the 60s Batman movie where he slides down and all of a sudden he's like dressed. Beforehand he was in his pajamas with his bunny slippers. I like that scene where he has like a carrot for the bunny slippers, and then like his feet like are walking over, pretending like they're like actual bunnies going and nibbling on the carrot and whatnot. And he slides down into his iconic Pee Wee Herman suit and goes starts to make breakfast. And then I don't know why he's so wasteful though. He makes this whole plate of breakfast. Even goes as far as to fashion it into the shape of a face and calls it Mr. Breakfast.
Good morning, Pee-wee. Morning, Mr. Breakfast.
And then he just pours a bunch of like Mr. T cereal all over it.
Ah, pity the poor fool. Don't eat my cereal.
And he like takes a few bites and then he just ditches it there. That's kind of wasteful.
But yeah, if you're gonna make a breakfast, then just eat it.
Yeah. Then we see like the iconic house when he goes outside. He goes to water his lawn. He says hi to his neighbor. I don't know. I wonder if his neighbors are annoyed of him or not. But he seemed happy to see Pee-wee, Mr. Crabtree. He warns him. He's like, "Good morning, Mr. Crabtree. I'm going to water my lawn now." And then he turns on this wacky sprinkler. I think it's like looks like an old timey diver or something, right? And it's like shooting water everywhere, splashed it on Mr. Crabtree's house. I would be pissed, but I don't know. Maybe he doesn't mind. Maybe he just gets along with Pee-wee. I guess that's good. And then we get the epic bike reveal. I like how he opens that secret door. He has like a keypad, right? And then he pulls like a branch, and then all of a sudden the bike comes out from behind like a door that has ivy all over it and whatnot. What do you think about that bike, man? It's iconic.
It's awesome.
Yeah. That's sold at auction. I forget for how much, but that's one of those things like, man, like hopefully whoever owns it is taking good care of it, man. Like Indiana Jones says, it belongs in a museum. But I don't know. Hopefully it's being taken care of. So it's such an iconic piece of movie history. It deserves the best, man. But that bike is so epic. I like how it has like that. What is that? Some kind of like wildcat head on it or something. I don't know if it's like a lion or something.
I think it's a wildcat or a lion. I'm not sure, but something on it. It's just so
yeah.
Memorable, and the bike is so awesome.
Yeah, apparently
and the movie is so awesome.
Apparently, the idea of the bike kind of came last minute. They were thinking about doing a whole different movie where like Pee-wee comes into town, and then he has to like convince everyone to like him or some shit like that. And then Paul Reubens was given a bike to ride around the studio, and then that's where he got the idea for Guy and his bike. So it was very, very serendipitous, if you will. We almost got a whole different movie, but I just love the simplicity of the premise of a guy losing his bike and going on an adventure to find it. And I think that's where the best things happen, is because when he goes on the trip, there's a lot of like side stories and weird people that he meets along the way. That's the fun of a road trip movie. Would you agree?
Yeah, very, very awesome.
And of course, he meets the evil Francis Buxton, another man-child, but he's like the evil side of Pee-wee Herman. He's like the other side of the coin to Pee-wee's fun-loving, wacky character. He's the evil, rich, spoiled man-child. And of course, it's his birthday, and he wants Pee-wee's bike. But Pee-wee, he loves his bike. He's not going to give up his bike. But Francis thinks that everything can be bought. But Pee-wee does not. He ain't having it shit, man. I love how Pee-wee razzes him though. Like he's good at comebacks and whatnot. Of course we get the iconic, "I know you are, but what am I?"
Then you're crazy.
I know you are, but what am I?
You're a nerd.
I know you are, but what am I?
You're an idiot.
I know you are, but what am I?
I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I?
I know you are, but what am I? Infinity.
And then my favorite one is, "I don't make monkeys, I just train them." What's your favorite Pee-wee Herman insult?
I don't know. Just pretty much every one of them.
Yeah. Oh no, my favorite one is later on when after not to get ahead of ourselves, but after Pee-wee gets his bike stolen, and then he goes to confront Francis, and then the butler's telling him that he's taking a bath, and he's like, "Oh really? Where are they hosing him down?" Yeah, that was my favorite Pee-wee burn of this movie. But yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's backtrack a little bit. So Francis, he gets shut down by Pee-wee when he says that he wants his bike, and then of course he wants to get his revenge. "Well, you'll be sorry, Pee-wee Herman." And then of course Pee-wee goes off about his day. Just a typical day, going to the magic shop to pick up some crazy contraptions and tricks and whatnot. I like when he's like trying out all the stuff in the store. He has like that giant ear.
What?
There's like someone else shopping at the magic store, kind of getting weirded out by him. And then we meet the owner of the magic shop, Mario. And then we see him like offering him different products, like those crazy like different sized heads. What would you even use that for? Like he has like a little mini head, and then he has like a regular sized head, and then he pulls out like that giant head and it scares Pee-wee. But then he ends up buying some stuff from him. Remember, he gets like the trick gum, and he gets which comes into use later, so it's like a little bit of a foreshadowing and whatnot. What else does he get from him? Oh, he gets those like the night vision goggle type things, or those you remember he also uses them later in the movie, but they're like headlight goggles. Those are kind of cool. And then this is one thing I wish I would have seen him use in the movie, but that's where he gets like what is it called? A boomerang bow tie.
Yeah, we never ever see him with that. I don't know why.
That should have came back in the movie, and he could have used it like in the finale, like to defeat Francis or something. I don't know, but they kind of teased it, and I wish they would have. I wish they would have utilized it. It's like Chekhov's gun. If you see a gun, you should expect it to go off before the movie's over, man. But alas, we don't see any more of the boomerang bow tie. But apparently it does come in red. I like that scene just before he enters the magic shop where Pee-wee blocks up his bike, and he has like that endless bike chain. He's just like pulling it out of there, like almost like a magician pulling out scarves from his like sleeve or some shit. I don't know. That's one thing about this movie. It's like very like there's like a bunch of magical shit that happens, and just kind of go with the flow. It's like it's very like a living cartoon. It's one of those kind of deals. It's like anything can happen. There's not really a logic to it. For the most part, it's grounded in the real world, but there's some magic shit that goes on, and you just kind of go with it, man. What do you think about that? Do you like the surrealness of it all?
Yep. Very, very awesome.
What's your favorite surreal moments of Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Oh, I don't know. Just the whole movie,
The
everything.
whole movie. That's a good answer. The whole movie is pretty surreal. It's one of those things where you either get it or you don't. It takes a certain kind of person to get this movie, and it's just like, the humor, is not for everybody. But I don't know. I love this shit. Anyway, after he goes to the magic shop. He goes to Chuck's, the bike shop, and then it's where he meets Dottie, played by E.G. Daily, who she's a famous voice actress. Do you know who she plays?
She's the voice of one of the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, she plays Buttercup, and also Tommy Pickles from Rugrats. But yeah, she's like she has a thing for Pee-wee, but Pee-wee. He's too busy thinking about bikes and stuff, so he's always kind of shutting her down and whatnot. All the kids in the BMX, who are like into the BMX biking scene, they're all making fun of kind of teasing him. Ooh, it's getting hot in here. But Pee-wee, he just too busy with his own stuff to go out on a date with Dottie. Yeah, she's been trying to get him to go to like a drive-in movie with them, but he's totally uninterested. What do you think about that whole situation?
It's awesome. It's awesome, funny, and so very, very serendipitous.
It spawns one of the best lines in the movie.
I'm a loner, Daddy. A rebel.
But then I like the scene after he says that, like he's saying it to her like deadpan serious, and then when he walks away, he's like laughing to himself. He knows how ridiculous it sounds. I thought that was hilarious. And then Pee-wee, he goes back. And then, dun, 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 his bike, it's missing. But who could have done it? I don't know. I like that whole scene. It's just like you can feel the anxiety of Pee-wee. Like the way those filmed, the choices, done by Tim Burton and whatnot. It's just like you just feel how like lost he is during this whole scene. Like, I mean, his whole world at this point is his bike, and then everything. Like I like how that clown that he tied it to. it turned like the face turns evil, and then like after a while he's like walking around, and all he sees is people with bikes and all kinds of different styles of bikes and crazy like unicycles and trick bikes and like a bunch of like, what are those ones like with the multiple seats on them, and he sees all kinds of different styles of bikes. All I think about is bikes. And then even there's like one scene where he's like standing by the window, and then he sees a reflection of what looks like his bike, and he turns around and it's a totally different bike. They did a good job with that, right?
Oh yeah, very very good job.
You get the anxiety, like the worry. You could feel his emotions in that. They did a really good job. But yeah, he just totally lost. I like the scene where he goes running back into the Chuck's Bikorama, Daddy, and he honks the horn that he just bought from there, and that loud ass bike horn sounds like a truck horn, and he collapses, knocks all the bikes over in this bike shop, which is a visual gag that comes back later on in the movie in a different fashion, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, he's just totally lost. He's just trying to retrace his steps, and he's like, and he's also talking to a policewoman. She's like, could you think of anyone who might have done this? And then of course, there's one person that comes to mind. Francis. But yeah, he immediately marches over to Francis's house, and this whole scene, it's just so amazing. And then that's when he confronts the I guess he's his butler or something, but he looks like a chef. I don't know why he's like dressed like a chef or something like that. Apparently in real life he was like a fighter. I don't know if he was like an MMA fighter or like a wrestler or something like that, but he was like some kind of athlete. But that's when he's like that's when Pee-wee confronts him, and he's not letting him in. But I love that trick that he plays on him after I think the third time that he knocks on the door. I don't know where the hell he pulled it out from, but he gets like a mechanical hand that he attaches to the door that's knocking, and it distracts him, and he sneaks in like from the side or something. I don't know. But like I said, this shit's like a cartoon, and I love it. And then finally he's able to confront Francis. Like I said, he was bathing, and so he bursts into the room. Like, this bathtub is like insane. I would love a bathtub like that. It's essentially a swimming pool, and apparently but this is Francis's bathtub, and so he interrupts Francis's bath time to confront him about his bike. And I love the scene where like he sees Pee-wee, and he gives out like that squeal, and he tries to hide underneath the water. And then all you see is Pee-wee's feet stepping down into the bathtub, and
like Jaws.
And then he grabs his hair, and he confronts him about the bike. But of course he's denying it, and then Pee-wee locks the door, and then Francis's dad is like frantically trying to get a hold of him, and he has like the butler try and knock down the door, but then Francis, he gets out, and then I like that little belly slide that he does when he gets out of the pool. He just like flops on the ground like a whale, and then he slides away, and he opens the door, and then the butler goes flying into the pool because he was about to bash the door and whatnot. And of course Francis's dad is trying to vouch for him, like he would never do anything like that. And then of course Francis is trying to play into his dad's good side and whatnot. I swear I didn't do it, Dad. That guy, by the way, the actor, I can't remember his name right now, but he's been in a shit ton of things. I remember we saw him in a while ago when we did our review of Leprechaun 1. He was one of the brothers in that movie, like one of the hillbilly brothers, right?
Oh yeah, he was in there. Yeah,
I think he died in that movie. I think he had like the coin in the gut or something like that. And then he was also a character in Teen Wolf. He played like the token fat guy who always had like, he was always eating random shit, like he had liverwurst in his locker or something. I don't know. And then Michael J. Fox was always telling him to go on a diet. Yeah, he's been in a shit ton of stuff. And I was watching Seinfeld the other day, and he popped up as one of the characters in that show. Anyway, and not to get too off topic here. But yeah, he's a good actor. I like that. But yeah, he's denying it up and down, saying that he didn't do it. And of course, Pee-wee doesn't believe him. But at this point, he's just trying to get out of there, and he's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And then as a peace offering, he gives him the gum. Remember that scene where he gives him the gum that he got at the magic shop?
Oh yeah, the trick gum.
Yeah. I think the one that he gave Francis's dad, it must have been like a super hot piece of gum because he starts screaming his head off. And then Francis is like chewing the gum like a dope, and you see all this ink dripping down on his face. I thought that was hilarious. Classic, man. And then of course, he's trying everything. He's like he like puts up like a reward for like $10,000, and Dottie's like, you'd never be able to pay it. But he's like, he's basically doing it as like a trap. So he figures whoever comes for the reward is the person who has the bike, and obviously they're gonna be the one that stole it. But and then he sees a radio station as he's putting up the sign, and he gets the idea to put out like information about the bike, hoping someone like comes up with some information. But then later on we get confirmation that Francis is the fucker behind this, because eventually we see Francis and the guy who helped him steal the bike listening to the radio as Pee-wee is like kind of pouring his heart out. And then he realizes that he's getting too close, so he gets nervous and he has the guy ditch the bike and whatnot. But so we got confirmation that he did it. So of course, I mean, as we all knew, Francis was behind all this and whatnot. And then afterwards, Pee-wee, he's still trying to come up with a way of like trying to make sense of what happens. I like that meeting that he has in the basement of Chuck's Bike-O-Rama, where he gathers a bunch of random people from all over that he knows, trying to kind of like put out evidence, and then I like how he has like a bunch of like exhibit like he's like a shit ton of them, like exhibit A through Z, and then they're all like a bunch of irrelevant information, but he's making him sit there in this hot ass basement. My favorite character is I don't know who the hell he is in the movie, but Amazing Larry. He's like that crazy guy with the multicolored like things of shit on his head. I don't know what that character is.
I don't know who he is, but it's random stuff.
Like who's this guy? I want to know more about him. I want an origin story behind this. But of course, there's no new relevant information that he gives. Like he's literally like Exhibit A is like a picture of him like looking sad that after he got his bike stolen, and he made like a full scale model of like the shopping center where his bike was stolen, but it's like none of this means anything. And Chuck is even like, it's hot in here, like there's nothing, let's just stop for now. And then I like that scene where just Pee-wee's descending into madness, and he's talking about how this whole mystery is like you're unraveling a big cable knit sweater that someone keeps knitting and knitting and knitting. He just losing his fucking mind over this bike. Poor Pee-wee. Dottie offers to help him, but Pee-wee's snapping at her because he's frustrated and whatnot. He's just losing his mind, man. And then eventually he just goes out at nighttime and just walking in the rain and the darkness and whatnot. He gets approached by like a mob of people. That's where we get our Tim Burton cameo. Apparently he's the guy who confronts Pee-wee in the alley.
Take kindly to strangers coming around here.
And of course Pee-wee hisses at them, and then they just like scatter. That's one of those like what the fuck moments. Like very very creepy atmosphere for such a goofy wacky character. Would you agree?
Yeah, very, very goofy, but very, very funny.
Yeah, and that's when he goes to that medium, that shyster, Madame Ruby, and of course, she's wanting money to basically look into his mind to see, maybe if she can find out where his bike is at. But he wants a little bit of proof before he like puts down some money. So he asks her like, why am I here? And she says like, oh, because you were, like you're missing something or you want something. And then so he kind of believes her, and he like gives her some more money, and somehow she's able to fandangle his wallet away from him. And then she sees like a bunch of pictures. Normally normal people, they put pictures of their family or loved ones in their wallet, but it's all just him and his bike and his wallet. I thought that was hilarious. And then so somehow she fandangles his wallet away from him, and she's able to see how he's obsessed with the bike, and she figures that's what he's looking for. And so she mentions the bike, and then after that he's hooked. Like he thinks that she knows what she's talking about, but she has no fucking clue. And so she's making shit up as she goes along, and that's when she comes up with like the Alamo. Like she sees like a building across the street. This is Al and Moe's, and then that's where she comes up with the idea. Your bike is at the Alamo, and then she sees something else, and it's in the basement, and that's where Pee Wee gets the idea to go out on his adventure, which ended up working out for him. But we'll get to that in a bit. But after that, he's off to Texas to try and find his bike at the Alamo. So this starts an adventure of a lifetime, man. It's right there in the title. Pee-wee's, it's a big adventure. I love these kind of road trip movies, right?
Yep. Very, very much.
I think half the fun is just like all the random shit they encounter. It's not even about getting to the bike. Of course, that's satisfying, but accomplishing the goal that he set out for. But half the fun is just like going on this crazy trip, and then seeing all the different, amazing things. But anyway, not to get too off topic here. Like I said, all these crazy people that he comes across. Pee-wee's trying to hitchhike his way. Obviously he's headed to Texas and whatnot, and he comes across Mickey, that convict that's on the run. He gets in the car, and he happens to notice that he sees handcuffs, like broken handcuffs, and then he's like, "What are you in for?" And then of course, like, knowing how weird this movie is, I don't know if he's telling the truth or if he's just making up a story because he doesn't want to say. But he said that he got a knife, and then he cut off one of those tags off the mattresses that says "Do not remove under penalty of law." So what do you think? Do you think he was actually and that's actually why he was arrested? Or do you think he's like trying to hide from Pee-wee what he really did?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Knowing this movie, like I said, for all I know, that was actually what really happened. But that's his story, and he's sticking to it. And then Pee-wee's like, I always thought that was a stupid law to begin with. So they're just busy driving down the highway and whatnot. And then they come up to a blockade, like a police, like a checkpoint. And they have the area blocked off. They're looking for Mickey. And they basically figure that they're dead in the water. But Pee-wee, he always has a trick up his sleeve, and I don't know where the hell he pulls this shit out of, but he dresses himself as a woman. I don't know where he got the woman's clothes and the makeup and everything. And then he puts Mickey in like a fake beard and mustache and everything like that, glasses and the whole thing. They're posing as like a couple. And then, of course, with that Pee-wee charm, he's able to convince them that everything's fine. And there's even a point where he tells Pee-wee to get out of the car. The police officer tells Pee-wee to get out of the car, and it makes it seem like maybe he's in trouble or something like that. And then he's like, "No, I just want to get a look at that cute outfit that you're wearing." And he does like a little spin.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
And then, like I said, with that Pee-wee charm, he's able to move past the police checkpoint. And then there's like one of the weirder moments in the movie where they're driving off, and then Mickey's so ecstatic that he's like, "Hey, you did it! We were able to get past him. I thought we were, he basically think, he thought they were going to get caught and whatnot." And then as they're driving down the highway, Mickey, I don't know, he got them hungry eyes. He gets a glance of Pee-wee in his, he gets a glance of Pee-wee in drag, and I don't know, he's enjoying the view. I don't know. Maybe he hasn't seen a woman in a while, but I don't know. Not to get too off topic here. I thought that was hilarious, though. He's liking what he sees. But eventually, they keep driving. It's nighttime, and then Pee-wee takes over. Mickey's trying to catch some Z's and whatnot. And then the road, it gets like crazy, like windy out of nowhere. Like there's a bunch of signs coming up, and the road's doing like zigzags and loop-de-loops and shit. So Pee-wee accidentally drives off a cliff. But luckily, like I said, this movie is like a cartoon. So luckily they have like one of those convertibles with a soft top on it. And then luckily it catches some air as they're plummeting to their death. And it acts like a parachute that safely drops them down. But Mickey had enough about this. And he's like, you know what? It's time to, maybe head out on your own. You shouldn't be with a guy like me. I'm a loner. I'm a rebel. I like how they reuse the lines from the movie. Like he had no clue about that conversation that that Pee-wee had with Dottie earlier in the movie, but somehow he said the same exact line that Pee-wee did. I love it. It's like poetry. It rhymes. But Mickey, he ditches Pee-wee and takes off, and Pee-wee's left in pitch black. But luckily he has those headlight goggles. Before that, like you see that, I love that creative scene where Pee-wee's walking around and you see his eyes, but it's like animated. I thought that was pretty clever. I like that. What do you think about that?
It was awesome.
Yeah, and then and he turns on the after he realizes he has those headlight goggles, he turns them on, and a shit ton of like wildcats everywhere, and then I don't know, that whole bit never got resolved though. Like what happened? He started screaming all these wild animals everywhere, and then he turns out the lights, and then I don't know, maybe they just went away. But then in the distance we see a big rig pulling up, and it gives Pee-wee a ride. It's an old lady inside, but she has a wild tale about some mysterious accident that happened. This is one of the creepier moments in the movie, but of course, as later on we find out that she's a person named Large Marge. What do you think about the whole Large Marge thing?
Very, very funny.
Yeah, very creepy too for a movie like this. I don't know. That's what I love about having Tim Burton direct something like this, is that you get that kind of weird sensibility. Like I said, it mixes perfectly with the silliness of Pee-wee. He's like man-child. He's always very goofy and upbeat, but then you get those dark, creepy ass moments, and then that just balance it out so perfectly. But I like the whole speech that she gives. She all of a sudden. Pee-wee's just trying to have some conversation. He's like, some night, huh? And then she goes on this whole thing about, on this very night 10 years ago, along this same stretch of road in a dense fog, just like this, I saw the worst accident I've ever seen. There was this sound like a garbage truck dropped off of the Empire State Building. And when they finally pulled the driver's body from the twisted, burning wreck, it looked like this. And then this creepy fucking like stop motion animated face, like with those bug eyes and crazy, like the fuck. That's just terrifying. Imagine a kid watching it, and but it's still very like cartoony, so it's like terrifying in a fun way. I don't know. I don't know. Just random as shit, man. But I found it hilarious. This movie was co-written by. What's his name?
Phil Hartman.
Phil Hartman. I wonder if he had anything to do with that.
Well, he was in Pee-wee's Pee-wee's Playhouse, but he did have a little cameo.
Yeah.
In Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh yeah, that's right. We'll get to that. It's towards the end of the movie, but I wonder who was responsible for the whole Large March thing. That shit was brilliant. But that face is so terrifying. And anyways, he ends up getting dropped off at like some kind of truck stop diner or whatever. And then she's like, "Tell him Large Marge sent you." And then of course, when he gets to the restaurant, he tells him Large Marge sent him, and they flip their shit. They just kind of freeze, and they're basically saying that they give the same exact speech that Large Marge gave to them about the accident that happened. And it turns out that Pee-wee finds out that Large Marge was the one in the accident, and so he's like, that means that the Large Marge that I was riding with was ghost. And then you see the little shrine to Large Marge in the restaurant and whatnot. And then at this point, Pee-wee realizes that he's missing his wallet. Of course, we know that Madame Ruby stole it from him, but he has to work off his debt somehow. So, like in any old good movie, he's able to work off his debt by washing some dishes, and then he's on his way. But then he meets Simone. Simone, she has a similar dream, and that's to go to France. So as he's saying his goodbyes to her, she says goodbye in French and whatnot, in Paris talk or whatever. And then he realizes that she she's into France and whatnot. Her dream is to go to France, and she even invites him to go see the sunset with her at the famous Cabezon dinosaur whatever. I don't know what what is it? It's like attraction, I guess you could say. But that's a real attraction in California. But yeah, they utilized that for this movie, and then actually, as of Paul Reubens' passing, they painted the Tyrannosaurus Rex to look like he's wearing the Pee-wee. I can't speak today. The Pee Wee Herman outfit. I thought that was a great tribute. Saying that his Pee Wee Herman will live on forever and whatnot. But yeah, so him and Simone, they go up to the big Tyrannosaurus, and they're like sitting in the mouth, watching the sunrise and whatnot. And she's talking to Pee Wee, like, Pee Wee, do you ever have any dreams or anything like that? And then I love his response. Of course, it's very Pee Wee-esque. He said, I have a dream where I'm all alone rolling a big donut and the snake wearing a vest. Like what? And she doesn't let him finish. She's like, no, not that kind of dream. She's like, the kind of dream that you think about all the time, the dream that keeps you going in life. And so she's basically talking about her dream is to go to Paris and whatnot. And his dream is just to find his bike. He's obsessed with his bike at the moment. So, but yeah, she's talking about her dreams and whatnot, but how her boyfriend Andy, he's too jealous and he won't let her go and fulfill her dreams. But Pee Wee, he gives her some good advice, just to follow your dreams and go after what you want and whatnot, which eventually it eventually inspires her to break up with Andy, but not before a confrontation after they leave the dinosaur. Andy is there waiting for them.
Andy!
And then he starts like chasing him with a giant dinosaur bone that he found outside and whatnot. But Pee Wee's too slick. He's able to run away, jumps on a boxcar, and then Andy's angry and he snaps the dinosaur bone over his leg. So Pee Wee's off to the next great adventure. He meets a friendly hobo. He's like singing songs with him. I thought that was a fun scene.
By the name of Jack.
Hobo Jack. And then the first Pee Wee, he falls asleep, and then Hobo Jack wakes him up. It's at that point Pee Wee has one of those crazy dreams where he sees like the dinosaur come to life, and it's like eating his bike or whatever. And then Hobo Jack wakes him up. He realizes he's having a nightmare. And then he offers some sardines and whatnot. They get to know each other. They're singing all kinds of camp songs. She'll be coming around the mountain and shit. And then eventually, like, Pee Wee's over it. By the time he gets to like the fifth song or whatever, Pee Wee's he's had enough, and then so he ends up jumping off the train. And then luckily he lands right at the Alamo though. But I don't know if he planned that or whatnot, but that was a lucky jump. He's finally made it to the Alamo, and he's on his mission to find his bike. He ends up joining like a tourist group led by the great Jan Hooks. She has a cameo as the tour guide, and I heard that she made up a lot of the stuff that she said, like ad-libbed. She just came up with it on the spot, like the fun facts and whatnot. I thought that was hilarious. But Pee Wee's trying to ask where the basement is. Of course, that's where he thinks his bike is at. But she's telling him like, all questions will be held until the end of the tour, and he's forced to go along with this whole sightseeing tour of the Alamo. And finally he gets to ask the question, where's the basement? And she's like, there's no basement at the Alamo. And then he's embarrassed, and then they all laugh, and then he walks off and defeated once more, man. Poor Pee Wee just can't catch a break, man. That's kind of sad. I don't know, they all laughed at him,
I don't know why, but that movie is so memorable to me that I will see it again and again and again.
Yeah. And then later on, Pee Wee, he goes to the bus station, and then he calls Dottie. He's just interested in getting his tickets. He's trying to have her send him some tickets so he can get home. And then and she's like, yeah, and then maybe once I get you your tickets, we could settle up at the drive-in. And he's like, what? I can't hear you. The phone's breaking up. But I like how when he's talking about where he's at, and to prove that he's in Texas.
The stars at night are big and bright. Deep in the heart of Texas.
They all go along with it. I love that part. But yeah, and then he eventually sees Simone there, and she's at the bus station. She's actually headed to the airport to go fly to Paris. She's living her dream. She left Andy after the big fight that they had after the whole Pee Wee situation, and she's off to live her dream thanks to Pee Wee. He's a little dejected though because she's living her dream and he's still without his bike. But she gives him some words of encouragement, like he did for her, and he wishes her what does he say? Because she said adieu, and then he says, and he doesn't know how to say it, so he says some he says it all weird and shit. But yeah, he bids her adieu. Au revoir. I mean, there we go. Au revoir. And then unfortunately, Andy is there looking for Simone. He gets in another chase with Andy. He's running away from him, and then he goes into that trailer. Where he changes into some like cowboy clothes. Unfortunately, he gets mistaken for a bull rider, and he gets thrown into the rodeo that's happening nearby. And then I like that scene where he's like he's riding the bull because clearly, obviously, I don't know if they did it intentionally because a lot of old timey movies, like obviously there's like they use like footage of someone like. If they're on a bull, they use real footage of someone riding a bull, and it's like all fast paced and whatnot. And then all of a sudden they cut to the actor, and it's obviously like he's on a fake bull. And he's going significantly slower than what he should be if he was riding a real bull. And then you could see that happen in this movie. I wonder if it was almost intentional and whatnot because it was kind of funny. But he gets thrown off, and he's unconscious, and then. Andy, he happens to be wearing a red shirt, which tracks the bull, and the bull chases him away. That's the last we see of that fuck. But poor Pee Wee, he's unconscious. There's a group of guys that wake him up, and they're trying to get him to remember who he is. He's like, I don't remember. Like, who? Why are you here? I don't remember. And they're like, what do you remember?
I remember the Alamo.
And of course, as good, citizens of Texas, they cheer him on because he remembers the Alamo. But yeah, I thought that was funny. What did you think about that?
I thought it was amazing.
So Pee Wee, he's at this point, he's just lost, man. He doesn't know what to do. He wanders into a biker bar, and he's trying to make another phone call. But this is loud. All those bikers are rowdy, man. What are they like I forget what they call themselves, like the devil's
Helpers.
Satan's helpers. Those kind of the devil's helpers, but and then they're talking, they're rowdy, they're throwing bottles around and whatnot, and he tells them to shush. He shushes them.
I'm trying to use the phone.
And then that's when they all gang up on him and whatnot. They're kicking him out, because this is their territory. You don't come in and shush the Satan's helpers and whatnot. So they kick him out, and then he accidentally knocks over their motorcycles in the same fashion that he knocked over all the bikes in Chuck's Bikerama. But Chuck, he wasn't gonna try and kill Pee Wee. But the bikers have a different idea in mind.
I say we stop him. Yeah. Then we tattoo him. Yeah. Then we hang him. Yeah. And then we kill him. Yeah.
But Pee Wee has something different in mind.
I say we let him go. No.
And then we get our a cameo by Cassandra Peterson, the great Elvira. She plays a biker mama.
I say you let me have him first.
But then he asks for one last request. And it thus spawns the one of the most famous scenes in movie history of all time. I think this scene is just amazing. But yeah, it's the infamous tequila scene. So apparently his last request, I love how he goes over to the jukebox and picks out a song, and then he goes and whispers over to the busboy, who's wearing like these, what would you say, like 4-inch like platform shoes,
Something like that.
I don't know. I love that scene because then he takes off the shoes and the guy steps down and he's like a shit ton shorter than he was before. And then so Pee Wee borrows his giant platform shoes, and then he starts dancing to Tequila on the tabletop with his infamous Pee Wee dance, which this is where it started. This is where it started right here. Such a random. I wonder what spawned that idea, but I don't know. This everything just brilliant. I love it. It's so simple, but yet so brilliant. I don't know. It's just hard to put my finger on this. Like, where does an idea like that come from? But he does his dance, and then he's with that Pee Wee charm, he's able to woo the crowd, woo the bikers. It took a little bit, but then he starts dancing, breaking bottles and whatnot. They get all rowdy. They're cheering him on. Eventually, he becomes one of the buddies. Man, it's like he becomes like an honorary member of the Devil's Helpers and shit. Or the Satan's Helpers or whatever they're called. And then to the point where even like they give him one of their vests, and they even send him away on one of their bikes. But unfortunately, he does not ride it. He crashes it immediately into a sign and goes unconscious again. He gets the ambulance called for him, and then that's when he has one of his scariest dreams so far in this movie. Very Tim Burton-esque visuals and whatnot. He gets rushed off in an ambulance by some clowns. Of course, his bike is also being treated and whatnot. It's in pieces and everything. He's having a hallucination about his bike, and it gets cobbled together by these creepy clowns with this scary makeup and whatnot. And he's there in the hospital as they're working on his bike. He wants to see what's happening, and then he sees a doctor that looks normal, and then the doctor pulls down his mask, and he has these creepy painted on teeth and whatnot. He's freaking out, and then eventually when the bike's put back together, it gets picked up by this giant claw, and then you see like Francis. I think it's Francis, right? If I'm not mistaken, there's Francis in a devil suit, and he's like. They're lowering it into a cauldron of fire, and it's just crazy, man. It's like the hallucinations that this guy has they're astounding. Finally, after he wakes up from his dream, then Pee Wee happens to see his bike, but it's on TV. Turns out that somehow the bike ended up in the hands of the Warner Brothers studio, and it was being used for a television show. I don't know. It's like a show about like an orphan and some nuns or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, it's like this child star, and he's like a big asshole, and he's played by the brother from the Wonder Years. But yeah, and then the head nun is played by the same actress who plays Miss Yvonne. I don't have her name right now. I should have put it in my notes, but she also plays Charlie Kelly's mom, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I'm as sick as a three-legged dog on the streets of India. Any minute, my lungs are going to sizzle, pop, and disintegrate into a liquid lung and organ gumbo soup. She's
hilarious. So it's great. It's great to see that. It's great to see her in that part, and it's funny because obviously, I don't know. Did Miss Yvonne pop up in the HBO special?
I think she did.
Okay, so maybe that's where that spawned from. Because I was gonna say this is pre Miss Yvonne, but maybe not. Maybe she was. Maybe the Miss Yvonne character happened in the HBO special. I don't know. I've only seen it like once, but I can't remember who was in it. But anyway, we get a cameo from her as the head nun. It's funny because like the actor, like I said, he's a really big dick, and he's kind of razzing the actress who plays the nun. The head nun, and they're at odds with each other. She thinks he's a big asshole and whatnot. But by the time the camera rolls, obviously they jump into character, and then they're so sweet to each other and whatnot. It shows you how fake Hollywood is. That's a good commentary on the fakeness of the industry and whatnot. But yeah, so Pee Wee he heads down there. He wants to get his bike back. He's trying to sneak on set, but he sees that someone gets turned away for not having a pass. So then he sees the great
Milton Berle.
Yeah, he sees Milton Berle. We get a cameo from Milton Berle. He's walking in with a big posse, and they're all just cracking up at his jokes and whatnot. And so Pee Wee sneaks in with the crowd, and he starts laughing at his jokes. And I like that little the little cheek pinch that he gives the guard as he passes by him. Just giving him that little Pee Wee
charm. Who is
charm.
famously known for playing Louis the Lilac in Batman, the TV series 1966.
Are you talking about Milton Berle?
Yeah. 1966.
That you saying that's his big starring role?
Oh, yeah.
Lily the Lilac.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe I guess I don't know. I don't know too much about Mittenbrough. Anyway, not to get too off topic here. So he sneaks in. He's able to sneak in, and finally he gets to the set, and he sees his glorious bike again in person. He hasn't seen it for a while now, and so in Pee-wee fashion, he decides to disguise himself as one of the nuns on the show, and he slyly rolls it off.
I'm going to start a paper route right now.
And he keeps going, and they realize that this guy is stealing the bike, but they don't realize it's his bike. They didn't have a right to have that. It's Pee-wee's bike, so Pee-wee takes off with it. And thus ensues an amazing sequence of events, a whole chase through the Warner Brothers studios. I love there's so many great set pieces in this chase. I mean, they end up on a 60s like beach movie set, and then they crash through the North Pole. Well, first of all, like I don't know why, but one of the security guards decides to take off there's like a boat in like the 60s beach set, and then he takes off on the boat driving, and for some reason it's drivable, and then he starts driving in it, and then he crashes. When they crash through the North Pole set, Santa's there. Santa falls into the boat. He's dragging the sleigh along with it and everything, and they ended up into a Godzilla set. There's a whole Godzilla movie being made, and Godzilla falls into Santa's sleigh. It's like an epic scene with Santa and Godzilla, and chasing Pee-wee throughout the Warner Brothers lots, and eventually some of the guards take chase on bikes of their own, and then we get a little James Bond moment from Pee-wee where he's like he shoots out like some like oil slick, and then he even does a trick. One of the guards, he's able to gain on him a little bit, starts grabbing the handlebar, and then the handlebar is Pee-wee activates something, and the handlebar pops off, and it shoots out, and it ejects another handlebar after it. I love that part. And then eventually Pee-wee it deploys. I didn't know it had this capability, but apparently it has like flight mode on it. Oh, there's like one scene before that too. He's like swinging like Tarzan throughout the set. I mean, he does some amazing shit. He even does like a Wile E. Coyote move, like a Roadrunner type shit, where he finds like a painted backdrop that looks just like the backlot, and then he's able to like put it like in the path of the guards that are chasing him, and they crash through it. It's amazing. And then, like I said, he activates flight mode, and he's able to fly up past the walls of the studio, lands on the roof of a nearby house, and then sticks the landing in front of a group of kids. Which earlier in the movie, when we first see him riding his bike, he ends up crashing his bike, and he claims that he meant to do that. But this time Pee-wee sticks the landing. He's got his bike back, and he's better than ever, man. And then all of a sudden he happens upon, this is a little random scene, but he happens upon after he escapes the studio, he happens upon a burning pet, what is that, a pet shop?
Yep, and then he rescues the pets.
Yeah,
the snakes scare him, so he just rescues the other pets, and just so random, but
right.
A random act of helpfulness.
He avoids the snakes, until the very last second. Then finally he realizes he needs to get the snakes out. So he the last thing he does, he grabs all the snakes and he screams and he passes out. All the snakes slither away, and then he tells the firefighters that. There's still some more animals in there, and then they're telling him, you're your hero, son, and then all of a sudden the authorities catch up to him, and then they take him into their custody. They take him back to Warner Brothers Studios, and then they're playing back footage of the chase as it was filmed by the cameras on the different sets that they were on. But then luckily. For Pee-wee, the head of Warner Brothers Studios, he decides that his story. Pee-wee explained everything to them, and then he decides that in exchange for not pressing charges, your story would make a great movie, and thus is born Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Later on, we see that finally they make it to the drive-in. It's the big premiere of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then we have who's the actor that plays Pee-wee in the movie?
The great James Brolin.
There you go. Oh, yeah. And then who other to play Dottie than the great?
Morgan Fairchild.
Yeah, there you go.
I apologize.
It took a while
for
to gestate in the brain there, but I love that whole scene where they take such a silly story and then they try and Hollywood it up. So they try to make him out to be some kind of James Bond or some shit. And then instead of a bike, it's like the X1 motorcycle or something. And then instead of Francis stealing his bike, it's a group of ninjas that take off. But not before he has like a big fight in the forest, and they take off with his super secret spy bike. And I love it. They even give Pee-wee a cameo in his own movie where he's behind the desk. He plays the bellboy at the hotel. And then I love that.
And there's that famous scene, scene where it says,
"Paging Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, you have a telephone call at the front desk."
Movies always used to do that back in the day. They don't do it so much anymore, but they would get someone to dub over a voice. If like they didn't like someone's voice, they would dub it over with a voice that they deemed like suitable for motion pictures and whatnot. They used to do that all the time. Nowadays they're better about doing that, using the real person and whatnot. But you would see movies all the time where like that's clearly not the person's voice.
It's random stuff.
Yeah, so I thought that was hilarious, poking fun at Hollywood and whatnot. And then you always see Pee-wee staring at the camera any chance. And then there's some points where the movie just kind of lingers on him for a little bit, and he's just like standing there all awkward, and then he keeps spiking the camera lens, looking directly into the camera. I thought that was hilarious. He's so awkward on screen, but every time you see Pee-wee at the premiere, he's like looking at himself on screen. He's just so ecstatic, like he just thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. And then, of course, I love that whole scene when they're at the premiere of the Pee-wee's movie. Everyone that he encountered throughout the movie shows up. You have everyone at Chuck's Bikorama. Even the BMX kids, I think, are there, right? You have Simone and then, of course, you have Mickey. He's there on a prison bus watching the movies. He's so thrilled by the
Of course, Pee-wee grabs a footlong, but little do we know, there's a knife in there.
Oh, yeah, he puts a file in there to try and bust Mickey out, but the cop catches it. I forgot about that. That was a good one. And then who else is there? Everyone that he meets is there. Even dumbass Francis is there. He's trying to pass off
he has like a suit on.
Oh, the bikers are there.
Of course, the bikers are there, and of course, the grateful Hartman makes a very, very small cameo.
That's right.
Very memorable.
Yeah, Phil Hartman is one of the. He plays one of the reporters talking to Francis, and of course, Francis is schmoozing them, pretending like he's great friends with Pee-wee, and that he taught him how to ride his bike, and totally just kind of glossing over the whole fact that he stole his bike and everything like that. And he's trying to pretend like he's great friends, and he wants to get a photo op on Pee-wee's bike. And of course, Pee-wee has the last trick up his sleeve. He activates the ejection seat on his bike, and he sends Francis flying up into the air and whatnot. And of course, Dottie's there as well at the premiere, and she finally got to see a drive-in movie with Pee-wee. They leave together on their bike, and even Speck. What's the dog's name?
Speck.
Speck. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, even Speck is there too, and whatnot. And then Pee-wee decides to leave early, and then Dottie's like, "Wait, you don't want to finish the end of the movie?" And one of the best lines in the movie.
"I don't have to see it, Dottie. I lived it."
And then they go riding off. I love that shot when you see him riding, and it's just like a silhouette of them against the movie screen. It's perfection. And then they ride off, and the movie has come to an end. There's a happy ending. What a wild ride of a movie, I must say.
Very, very awesome.
What would you rate this movie?
I would rate this movie a 10 out of 10.
Nice. I would solidly rate it a 9 out of 10. Great movie, wonderful premise, so original. So like you don't have movies like this anymore. They don't make shit like this anymore. They will never make anything like this anymore. It's such the humor is so weird, the character is so unique at the time. Especially like I don't know. There hasn't been anything like it. I mean, it's such just a weird mix of things that came together to form this movie. It spawned so many great careers. Of course, the collaboration between Danny Elfman and Tim Burton helped launch Tim Burton's career in a big way, and we got so many great things from it. And of course, Pee-wee, the Pee-wee character became huge, and we got the Pee-wee's Playhouse show. I mean, it was just amazing. What amazing things came out of this movie. Definitely one of my favorites. Would you agree?
Yep, that is one of my favorites.
Yeah. But here's some fun facts before we close out this episode. Some fun facts about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Like I talked about earlier, the movie changed when Warner Brothers gave Paul Reubens a schwinn. Cast and crew members often take bicycles around the studio lot from point A to point B, and Reubens was given a 1940 schwinn to ride while he was at the studio, and that's when they decided to work the bike into the script. Originally, it was going to be a remake of Pollyanna, and it was going to be like that kind of concept, and then they decided to go with the bike idea, and that's changed the whole course of the movie and whatnot. Apparently, it's a retelling of something called Bicycle Thieves. I'm not familiar with that. Is that the movie or whatnot? But after the idea of Pee-wee as Pollyanna bit the dust, according to Mental Floss, the script ended up turning into a surrealistic reworking of Bicycle Thieves, an essential example of Italian neorealism. I don't know. That's some fancy movie terms. I know we're the men who watch movies. But we're not like movie experts or whatnot. I don't know if you know that term. Neorealism and whatnot, but I'm not
heard of it.
We don't claim to be movie experts, but we're just guys who watch movies that we like,
Exactly.
So excuse us, we don't know what neorealism is, but apparently it's the movie that this kind of paid homage to was neorealistic or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, not to get too off topic here, but yeah. So it's based off of that. Sorry, I hit the button by accident. Paul Reubens fought to get 26-year-old Tim Burton to direct Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Like I said, after he saw Frankenweenie, he thought that, I guess that's the kind of vibe that he wanted. We're talking about the original Frankenweenie before it became an animated motion picture. And then that's just history, man. Tim Burton's career blew up. Of course, he did Beetlejuice and Batman and all that,
and Batman Returns, which I may add, Paul Reubens has a cameo in there.
Yes.
And of course, the actors who plays Simone
they're the Penguin's parents, the Cobblepots.
She plays the Cobblepots. It's so iconic, so a dark movie, but so memorable.
Definitely. I love Batman Returns. I used to love the original more, but the more I watch Batman Returns, the more it grows on me. It's a terrific movie. And this was the first collaboration between Tim Burton and Danny Elfman. Man. So it's a lot of great stuff. I believe this brings a wrap to this episode of The Men Who Watch Movies. We had so much fun talking about one of our favorite flicks.
Yep.
And rest in peace to Paul Reubens, legend, who's in so many other great films, of course. One of my favorite movies with him in it is Mystery Men. He plays that creepy character. What is his name? Like Spleen or something like that.
Spleen.
And then, I don't know if you've seen the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He plays a great vampire in that.
Oh, yeah, he does. I saw it, and it was so awesome, so funny. The way he was in the makeup, terrific, a wonderful actor. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, he has an epic death scene in that, if you want to check that out. And then, of course, he was in, wasn't he in the Blues Brothers?
Oh, yeah, he played the maitre d'.
Yeah, and then he was also in one of the Cheech and Chong movies as well. He popped up in a lot of stuff, and he even had his own game show. I know my mom had sent me a clip of it. It was called You Don't Know Jack, and it only ran for six episodes. But he played a character on the show that wasn't Pee-wee. It was they came up with a character that was the host of the show, and if you check it out on YouTube, but he plays a guy named Troy Stevens, and it's just so wacky. There's only some shit that he could come up with, but it's pretty funny. There's an opening bit where he's talking to Regis Philbin, and it's just so weird. But I love it. He's like I said, I just love that weird humor that comes out of his brain. It's just so funny. It's such so tragic that he's gone. But we always have his movies and TV shows, Pee-wee's Playhouse, to remember him by, and we'll watch those to the end of time. Well, this brings a wrap to this episode of The Men Who Watch Movies. We had so much fun talking about the great Paul Reubens and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So like I said, subscribe. That way you can keep up whenever we post some new content for y'all. It's been fun, ladies and gentlemen. And you've all been amazing. And we want to remind you all to keep on watching. Thank you, everybody.